Good day, everybody. I'm Joe Eisman, host and moderator of this episode of LTADchat, which is a platform to share conversations about best practices in youth athletic development, youth sports, youth fitness, coaching, and physical literacy. Today, we are going to address why are there so few female coaches in youth athletic development. And to do so, I'm going to give the stage to two people who are familiar faces and voices to LTADchat, Lesley Sommerfield and Erica Suter. Lesley, Erica, welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us, Joe. This is a great conversation, very needed.
Yeah, super. Really happy
Very,
that both of you are here.
thank you. Very excited to talk about this.
Great. So both of these women are practitioners in the field of youth athletic development. In addition, Lesley is a PhD, just completing her degree and research in New Zealand, which she recently shared with us on another LTAD 1v1 Shorts episode. And Erica, the @Fit Soccer Queen on social media, is quite a prolific blogger on her site, ericasuter.com. So let's get right into this episode. And you're going to have to answer all of the questions because I don't have much to say about this topic in regards to experience. So what is it like to be a female in youth athletic development? And I say that because it's obvious that there's a substantial lopsidedness in the percentage of male versus female coaches in youth strength and conditioning and in youth sports in general. So again, what's it like?
A few different things, I guess. For being a female, it's definitely challenging. I feel like I have to prove myself a little bit more than my male counterparts. I feel like athletes ask me more, how long have you been in this industry? Like, what's your background? More than the males, or at least that's my experience. I've also been told that, like, as a female, our voices, they don't project as much. So I've been told you don't have a voice for this, like you're not going to make it. And I think that does have to do with a persona of like, you just have to yell at your athletes and your kids. That's what you see a lot in like university level and stuff, and sometimes high school. But I guess just going through my experiences have taught me that's not the case. Like, you don't have to yell. It's better to have a conversation, talk with them, get to know them. And I think that's what being a female really adds. Also, you talked about there's less females in this industry, and there's actually kind of less females, not just with youth, but with overall in the strength and conditioning. And I think a big part of that is there's some sort of research out there. It's just with females and jobs in general, how there's less females in a lot of jobs and males. But if a female doesn't think that she's qualified or has a chance of getting the job, she won't apply, where males will. So I think that's something that we as females need to, I guess, do a little bit better at, is just apply for things, like know that we can do it and kind of have that confidence, like we're just as good as the males, if not better sometimes.
Agree.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially early on in my career. So I got into coaching back in 2012, so I guess almost 9 years ago, and I started in college strength and conditioning. So that's a different environment than I'm in now. Now I run my own business and I work in the private sector. But the college strength and conditioning I did feel like I had to prove myself. Whether or not that was because I was a woman, I don't know. But I did feel the environment was very bro-like. And it was just like a very masculine environment, and just like yelling and shouting and just like lift heavy. And I was very culture shocked. So then I decided to go into youth because I had been working with kids like on the side while I was working in college strength and conditioning. And I just developed a passion for working with the youth. And now my mindset has totally changed. I used to have a bad taste in my mouth about being a female in the industry, and blamed men for all my problems and not having opportunity. And now I see it as I actually have more opportunity, at least in the private sector, because a lot of the soccer clubs that I approach, they see me being a woman as a strength. And they're like, well, you can be a role model to these girls But I also want to tell them, look, like just because I'm a woman doesn't make me a role model. I also got to be good at my job. So like Lesley said, I do feel like I have to prove myself, coach it and be louder, have more of a presence, because all eyes are on you and they're expecting you to maybe be like timid or just not as confident. But I think it's definitely something that I've just grown into in the past 9 years, just having more confidence in my work and my philosophy, and working with male coaches and not against them.
Mhm.
Good. Leslie, any follow-up?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, adding on a little bit to that. I work with my husband, who is also in the youth space, and it's good kind of for both of us to be in it, because we can work together and the athletes can see, okay, a male and a female can also do this. And I was kind of also thinking back to my experiences, like when I was in high school, which was over 10 years ago now, but there was no females like in the industry. It was a football coach who ran the strength and conditioning stuff. So it was like, females don't do this. I was going to get big. That was what I thought, because that's what the goal was for these football players. But I was just like thinking, if I had seen a female in the role, then I probably would have gotten more interested in strength and conditioning for myself personally earlier. I had a few other things come that like led me to where I am now, but it wasn't then. It was like, I'm shying away from this. But I think if you do have a female in that role, then more girls will want to do it. It's similar to, we now have a female who's going to be roughing in the Super Bowl. So that's awesome. So if a female does it, other younger girls can see, okay, they're doing it, I'm going to do it as well. Just like vice presidency right now, right? It's opening this whole kind of window for all these girls.
Yeah, one thing that I'm hearing is maybe a different dynamic between a female coach and female athletes versus a female coach and male athletes. And before we got on, I kind of shared some of my beliefs in that. A lot of the youth sports issues that we have right now may be solved if we had more female coaches of even boys sports at a young age. But what are your thoughts on that dynamic, you know, between females coaching females? And again, we did a whole episode, Erica, you were on that episode where we talked about coaching female athletes and how important it is to have a female coach as a role model. But on the other side, what about females coaching males as well? And and maybe you don't see it as a different dynamic. Maybe you're just like, hey, I have to do my job and I'm going to go out and do my job. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
that's a really great point, Joe. And I've worked with a lot of boys soccer players, middle school and high school and some college. And those first few sessions, you can tell that they're like, oh, a woman's coaching, a woman's teaching me how to Olympic lift and do strength training. What's this all about? And at first they're like kind of doubting you. You can just see it from their body language. But once you start to just do what you do best, and that's coach, and that's tell them why they're doing these exercises and what your philosophy is and how it's going to help them, that's when they're like, oh, well, she's qualified to do this, and she's serious about this, and she's truly going to help me get better. So that's been the only difference. It's really just those few initial sessions when boys are like, oh, a woman's here. Whereas girls, they walk into the gym and they're not as intimidated, because when they get into the gym for the first time, they're like, what is this place? But then they see a woman there and they're like, oh, well, she's our coach. She lifts too. This is exciting. And it helps with that buy-in for female athletes for strength training. And then they look at you and they're like, wow, like she's athletic, or she's been through the system. She's done this training, and she really like practices what she preaches. And that gets them more excited working with a woman. I think when there's that male strength coach, they're like, oh my gosh, is he going to make us like do barbell work right away or lift heavy like him? There's a lot of like jacked guys in our industry that tower over these girls, and these girls are like, oh gosh, like, so I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those first few sessions, like you said, Erica, of definitely kind of, again, like proving yourself a little bit more. But also I do find with the males that I work with, especially around the middle school age, I mean, I try to get to know every athlete, but I feel like with them, I have more conversations with them about what's happening in their life, so that they know I actually care about them. I don't just care about these, these females. So we can have conversations too, but like you said, they kind of get the buy-in as seeing you as a female coach. But the boys, yeah, I do have to, I feel like, talk to them a little bit more initially, which is fine. And I enjoy that too. So then every time they come in, we're constantly adding on to that dialogue, and they can tell that I care about them.
Yeah, Lesley, there's been a few times when things that you've said have just resonated with me in terms of quality coaching, and they're really essential to quality coaching: building trust, establishing relationships, and effective communication.
Mhm.
And again, it doesn't matter who we're coaching or who we are as a coach, right? But if we lose on those things, everything else really doesn't matter, does it?
Right.
Regardless of gender. Uh, let's get into this next question about, why do you think there are so few females in youth athletic development? What are some of the barriers for females to, explore being a coach in youth athletic development?
I feel like I kind of touched on this slightly earlier about just jobs, like just applying for jobs and, thinking like you're not good enough, and I think also a big thing is confidence. And if you see a female in this role, like Erica and I, the females will get that confidence, like, oh, I can do it, she can do it type thing. So if you have that confidence and just like, know you can do it, I think that's a big thing. So I think for us, it's just like, you just need to go after it, chase your dreams. You can do it. And then also connecting with other people, or just reaching out to people and just asking questions. And because I feel like sometimes you do see, this top level male even, and you're afraid to reach out and ask questions because you're a little bit intimidated. So I think all that kind of plays a little bit of a role in that, why there's not as many females.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's just like this stigma that it's like an ego driven industry, and it can be intimidating at first, especially for females who want to get into maybe college strength and conditioning or work for a professional club. It is intimidating because there's a lot of men in the higher up positions that are hiring you. So I think it's critical to have mentorship, whether it's a woman who is in a position where you want to be, where you aspire to be, or it's a male. And I will say I have several male mentors now who are the most amazing guys. And I always say they're very in tune with both their masculine and their feminine side. And that's inspiring. And I just see the way they listen to their athletes, they communicate, but they're also so good at what they do. And they're not there to like yell at their athletes or be this like rah cheerleader strength coach and like a cutoff tee. Like, they're actually professionals at what they do. So really just collaborating with the right men in the industry, but also seeking out women who are in the position that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think this bleeds into the next question as well. So let's just carry the conversation in terms of, what other things do you think we need to do to improve the landscape for female coaches? And also, Erica, you just touched on this. What steps can male coaches take to help level the playing field?
I think it really just comes down to collaboration and just being able to reach out to people and build community. I know, Joe, Ivy Casagrande, but she's doing this amazing mentorship group for male and female coaches to bridge that gap and to communicate. And it's designed for the women coaches in the group to express the issues they're dealing with, and for men to understand and learn. So I think it's good that we get everyone in the same room, so it's not like us versus them, and we're able to understand each other and support each other. And I think it's critical for male coaches to support women who are doing good work, and not just because they're a woman, but like, do they have a good body of work, and do they have something to show for, and years of experience and practice and education. So I think it's critical to just lift people up, and it really starts with the individual, and planting a seed, and then building a community, and then eventually the whole system will take a turn for the better.
Guys, I think conversations like this are a really good place to start. And then also just men being open-minded to and listening to what female coaches have to say, or female athletes. I've worked with a few male coaches who don't really try to understand if there's some issues going around with females, or like the coaches have some issues. They just are like, oh, they like kind of write it off because it's not them, like they don't understand it. And yeah, so I think just being really open-minded and listening is a big thing, and then asking them like, how can I change this, or how can we be better, would really help.
Yeah, great. Some really good stuff so far in this episode. And as we kind of close out here, last question, and you find yourself in a room full of females who are interested in getting into youth athletic development. What big nuggets, what major pieces of advice are you going to give them to empower them, help educate them, to become a successful female coach within youth athletic development?
I would tell them one really big thing is to network, reach out to as many females and also males who work with females as well, to get the bigger picture. And yeah, don't be afraid to do that, to reach out and talk to anyone. A lot of people might seem intimidating at first, but usually if you reach out, everyone kind of wants to share their knowledge. So don't be afraid to do that, and really just apply yourself. Go after that job, go after that internship, and then just keep trying to reach for the next level. So if you are an intern, try to do the position above you so that the coach can see, okay, they're already at this level. Now I want to hire them. So just keep trying to be better for yourself, and in talking to everyone you can, and doing some research and stuff as well on your own, reading what's out there in the literature, and just having conversations with males and females.
That's great. Yeah, I think just seeking out the mentors is key, and just having a community of people who support you and who are willing to call you out and critique you, and to truly help you grow your craft, and just getting your feet wet, and just getting out there and coaching. That's really the only way to learn. And I look back on the first few years of coaching, even like last year, I was doing some things I was like, dang, I really messed up those sessions. But that's how you learn. I find it's taught me better than even my graduate degree. And just being able to work with different personalities, age groups, so middle school, high school, college. I recommend working with all different types of ages, and just being able to understand the needs of the individual athlete, whether that's physical or emotional, and just really getting in there and be ready to fail. Be ready to fail, but be ready to gain confidence from that failure. And I would also recommend just observing, maybe shadowing strength coaches who work with the population you want to work with, and seeing how they run things, and shadowing various people, or having them come out and observe you when you're in your first few years, and getting some advice from them.
Yeah, I really liked to add on a little bit when you said don't be afraid to be critiqued. I think that's a big point as well, because that's how you learn, really. Just like you said, like I do things almost weekly that I'm like, oh, I could be better at this. So let's like change this up, and we'll see how it goes next time. So it's just, you will fail. You will do things awesome. And every group is going to be different as well. So you kind of have to get to know each group. So also, yeah, like you said, starting, even grade schoolers, that you can learn so much from trying to coach them. So I'd recommend even starting there. If you can coach them, you can pretty much coach anyone.
And I do want to add something to that. Something just came across my mind. It's like, even though I might have 9 years of experience, I want to also connect with coaches who are in their first year, because I can learn from rookies. So always just like pick out different people to learn from. And it doesn't matter how much experience you have. I think we can get nuggets from every coach. I even get training advice from football coaches. Andy at USA Football for my soccer players, and just reaching out to people in different sports, because at the end of the day, we're here to develop young athletes. And I think we can pick something up from all team sports, all age groups, and all years of experience.
Yeah, I just had a question pop into my head, and if you don't mind me putting you on the hot seat, um, a challenging time as a female in this industry, and what you did to rectify that problem. So, think about your coaching journey, being a female in this industry. I'm probably certain that you've come across a barrier and a challenge. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about that challenge and what you did to solve that problem. What steps did you take?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be really helpful to the listeners as well to hear, like, because they're going to listen to this and they're going to get a lot of good information, but they're going to walk out the door and they're going to come across a challenge for sure. So let's give them a couple examples here.
I have a couple, I think, off the top of my head. One kind of happened recently. Working with middle school boys, sometimes I find that super challenging, especially with their like 7th, 8th grade. They're at, the top of their school. They think they're they think they're I don't want to swear on here, but you know what I mean? They think they're awesome. They think they're awesome, basically. And then they see me come in and they're like, oh, I want this male. Why is this female here? Like, so I have had to come up with different creative kind of ways to get them to buy into my program, basically what I'm doing with them. And really what I did with that was, so I had this session with them and I'm like, this is not going well at all. They're not listening to me. They're like punching each other and like wrestling. And I'm okay, what can I do? So I actually reached out to a male colleague and I was like, who works with youth. And I said, okay, do you have advice for me? Like this is what I might try to do in the future. Maybe I can have them do more high intensity things so they don't have an opportunity to, hit each other, all that kind of thing. Like, or what do you think I should do? So I reached out to this male and he gave me some, great advice and great feedback. And I implemented that the next time and it definitely went a bit better. So I've kept having to implement things that this coach had told me about, which was good. And so for me, it was just like collaborating with a male because he was once a teenage boy, so he can understand where I couldn't. So that was a kind of a eye opener for me as well. Like, okay, I don't know everything about these boys. What can I do to change the session? So, and now things are going a lot better. They listen to me. I kind of still have to tell them like, okay, we are not hitting each other today, but other than that, they're getting better. So that was something that, really recently, a few weeks ago, I ran into that issue.
It's so funny. I think across the board, it's like that middle school boys age group, the 7th and 8th grade, when they're constantly wrestling each other. And it's like, guys, we're training now. And you have to have more of a presence. And I like that you reached out to a male coach for help there and took action. But yeah, that group always is trouble sometimes. One thing I do want to mention is the relationship with the parents. So if you're working in youth, if you're working in the private sector, you're always communicating with the parents and you're proving yourself to them too. And I've had a few instances where I've had a few dads tell me how to do my job, like really bad. There was one time when I was on the gym floor working with like 6 female athletes, and one of the dads stayed in the facility to watch the workout, and his daughter was doing pull-ups and I was helping another group with like split squats or something. And he walked on the gym floor to his daughter and was coaching her pull-ups. And the moment that happened, I had to set a boundary then and there. I was like, you crossed the line. And I explained to him, like, we normally don't have parents sitting in on these workouts, and this is your time for your daughter to be with her girls and to work out alone and to have autonomy and not have you here coaching her. So that actually caused me to lose a client, but for me, that was okay because I don't want people disrespecting what I do. And like the moment something like that happens now, I set a clear boundary and I stand up for myself. Whereas like early on in my career, when I was new to all this, I shied away from having those tough conversations. And I encourage like female coaches starting out, like the moment something feels off or someone's like stepping on your toes or you feel disrespected, you have to say something right away. You can't wait like a month until it becomes worse. So just really setting clear boundaries with parents or the colleagues you work with, clubs you work with. That's been key. And it's never going to be an easy conversation, but it needs to be done for your own sanity and your own respect for your craft.
Yeah, I want to kind of piggyback off that a little bit. I've had to deal with a lot of parents as well, and sometimes that can be really challenging. And for me, more in this like private sector as well, I think even on the website, making sure it's clear like what the goal of the program is. Because I've had parents that are like, "Oh, my kid's saying it's not hard enough," and I'm like, "Well, they don't need to be dripping sweat, breathing really hard to get a good workout in. You know, there's so many other parameters of athletic development." So for me, it's explaining to the parents what we're doing and then definitely making sure like on the website or wherever the parents are getting the information, it's clear what we're going to be doing. Because I've had it definitely have heaps of conversations with parents about, well, this is why we do this. Like sometimes they will be sweating and breathing heavy. Most of the time they won't be. And here's why. So explaining that initially is definitely going to help, especially get buy-in.
And being okay with people not being on board with that. And that's okay. And I know Mike Boyle has talked about this a lot, and he's just like, I'm tired of selling people on this stuff. Like my philosophy is my philosophy. We've been doing this for years. It's worked. And some people, you just have to accept they're not going to be on board. And that's okay. And that's another thing I would say to female coaches is like, you're going to have parents who are so supportive and who love everything you're doing for their kid. And they love that you're being gradual about this long-term athletic development process. And then you have parents who are pressuring you to rush these kids. And then those are the people you don't want to work with because you can't help that kid. They're either going to get injured or they're going to burn out. So just being okay with just loving those people and leaving them. Love and leave. That's what my mentor Dave Gleason always says. Just love them and leave them.
Yeah, great. This has been such a great episode on so many levels. First and foremost, being a female in this industry and shedding light and your experiences on that. But the other thing, and we kind of paused early on and just talked about quality coaching. We've talked so much about quality coaching as well, but again, from your lens, from being a female in this industry. And I'm really grateful that both of you have been on today on this episode. And I think a lot of women who are interested, along with men, right, who want to be in this space of long-term athletic development, but again, especially females who are interested in this space, this is going to be a valuable resource for them. And again, this is part of a four episode series now on the female athlete on long-term athletic development chat, including an episode that Erica was on when we first started coaching females. And she's on a panel there. We've also done one on sports nutrition for the youth and teen athlete, female athlete. And then Lesley's episode, our 1v1 shorts episode, where she talked about her research on physical preparation and injury prevention in adolescent females. So a nice package of 4 episodes for really focusing on females and the female athlete. So again, thanks for your time for being on this episode and all your contributions to youth athletic development.
Thank you, Joe. This was awesome. Thank you, Lesley. Some great insights.
Yeah, thank you both. It's been great.